in. Come on in. I hope you're having a fabulous start to December. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Let me know how you celebrated Thanksgiving in the comments if you do celebrate that. Welcome to Aries Rose TV. We have a great show lined up for you tonight. We are going to be talking about Kandi and Todd Tucker's divorce is getting nasty. So it started off seeming like it was going to be amicable, and it looks like it might be taking a little turn to the left. So, of course, we got to see what's going on over there. Funky Dineva is exposing Tamar Braxton. So earlier this year, there was a situation where Tamar says that she almost was no longer with us, that she had woke up in a pool of blood. And there was this whole kind of situation behind that where people were trying to figure out what occurred. How did this happen to you? She said she didn't remember anything. There was a dentist that came out making a statement about what allegedly occurred. But Funky Dineva is trying to clear up all of that about what may have happened to Tamar and why she may have come up with this story. So stay tuned for that. Ric Flair, the wrestling legend, made a wild claim about why Hulk Hogan passed away. So we got to get into that because, of course, there's always something interesting going on in the world of wrestling. And John Cena is entering into his last wrestling match. He is retiring from an over 20-year career. So that's something that I've been following. I'm really into wrestling. So let me know if you like wrestling too, and we'll add some stuff about what's going on in there. But Hulk Hogan transcended whether or not you watch wrestling or not. He was a person in pop culture. So we're going to cover anything related to him. And we're definitely going to see what Ric Flair is talking about his passing. He passed away in July. And Burna Boy is covering the funeral costs for the victims of the pow-powing that occurred in Stockton during a children's birthday party. Very sad situation, and we're going to get some more information on that. I think that's wonderful that they're covering the funeral costs, having lost somebody earlier this year unexpectedly and suddenly, the father of my children. It is, if you are not financially prepared for it, it is very expensive when people pass away to cover the funeral costs and for everything that goes along with it. There's a lot that goes into passing. So when you're not prepared for it and it happens kind of out of nowhere, which is what I believe occurred in this situation, it is nice when somebody comes in because it's a very tough financial time right now. So to add that onto it and you're already grieving for something, it's a lot. So I think that's wonderful that celebrity, I think into music, is stepping in here. But if you are not familiar with me, my name is Aries Rose, and welcome to Aries Rose TV. On this channel, we talk about streaming shows, movies, TV shows, world news, local news, politics, celebrity news, basically anything I find interesting. I come on and discuss with my Aries crew. If you've been on a live before, you know the drill. If you are a returning Aries crew member, leave hashtag Aries crew in the comments. If you are a first-time watcher, leave first-time watcher in the comments. I want to give you a shout out for stopping by and spending part of your day here. And we do have a leaderboard here, so leave your comments, questions on there, and I'll give you a shout out because the more you are engaged, the higher up you go on the leaderboard, and we'll definitely give you a shout out here on the live. So we're going to start with the first story of Burna Boy covering the funeral costs for the Stockton pow-powing victims. So that happened, I want to say maybe it was last weekend or 2 weeks ago. There was a pow-powing in Stockton that occurred during a child's birthday party. And some people unfortunately lost their lives as a result of that. So let's get into this article here on TMZ. All right, Burna Boy had his emotions spiked after hearing about the mass pow-powing that destroyed a 2-year-old's birthday party last weekend in Stockton, California, and he's stepping up to foot the bill for all 4 of the deceased victims. And last week was Thanksgiving, so that's pretty sad that it occurred around that time after you just kind of celebrated that holiday. And then to lose your life at a birthday party, very tragic. The Afrobeats giant says he was taken in the story from the Breakfast Club and immediately reached out to WAC 100, who in turn connected him with Hollywood's Unlocked Jason Lee, who also serves as vice mayor of his hometown, Stockton. And Jason Lee is currently got an investigation going on with him from the city of Stockton, where they're alleging potential fraud with a $50,000 payment that was made on behalf of the show Wildin' Out, going out to Stockton of whether or not that was done properly. So we are following that story here. So make sure you are subscribed to Aries Rose TV so you can get your updates on what's going on with that Jason Lee and the Stockton City Council situation. We're going to get back into the story. Lee lashed out at the unidentified POW powers, telling the Associated Press it's never been considered, quote, gangsta, end quote, in the streets to assassinate children, and Burna Boy agreed and offered to pay for all the funerals. It's the very least he could do considering the lifetime of pain these parents face ahead, which is so true. Very sad that children are losing their lives, and that's something that a parent is never prepared for. It's like we all know we're going to pass, but we just always think it's going to happen when it's supposed to, when you're older and you're going to go before your kids. So to lose your kids and to lose them young, I don't even want to imagine what that feels like. I don't ever want to know what that feels like, but my heart goes out to them, especially during the holiday season. And you just finished Thanksgiving and now you're going to be coming up on Christmas. Awful. I can't imagine there was any good reason that was done. I'm going to take a pause for some comments. Daniel Bear Sports Highlights 5851. Happy Tuesday. Welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Michelle Stadelman 8884. Hello, welcome. I appreciate you stopping by. My Thanksgiving was good. How was your Thanksgiving? Brent Roberts, glad to hear you had a Thanksgiving that was really good. And now we're going to jump back in to the story here. 14-year-old Omri Peterson was identified, 14 years old. That's crazy. It's so young. Was identified as one of the 4 victims deleted in the Stockton powwowing. The young football star passed away alongside an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 21-year-old. Wow. Burna Boy has been at odds with fans after he kicked out a woman who was asleep in the front row of his concert, but his current act of charity shows the controversy hasn't distracted from the real world. That is, that's just awful. I don't know if this was related to any type of, this was like a drive-by shooting, or if this was deliberate, if somebody who was there was fighting and this just escalated. We're going to look into more of what's going on, but I definitely extend my condolences out to the families that lost somebody awful. My heart goes out to you. Definitely speak to somebody. Don't sit in your head, because grief can really do a lot of things to you. And if you need to talk to somebody, don't feel ashamed to do that, because it's not an easy thing to deal with, especially when it's the passing of a child. And now we are going to get into Ric Flair, wrestling legend. He's in his 80s, if I'm not mistaken, and he's like one of the last from his time. And Vince McMahon is still hanging in there, but they're really some of the last of the tie-ins from the old days, from when wrestling was in the territories. And Ric Flair has been a staple in pop culture for a very long time as well. And because of his kind of standing in the wrestling world, when he speaks about something related to wrestling or wrestlers, it's kind of thought of as being a fact here. And he made a statement about why Hulk Hogan passed away. And Hulk Hogan was probably next to The Rock, the most popular and most well-known wrestler around the world. And he here we go. And he passed away in July unexpectedly, at least to the world unexpectedly, because we didn't really know that there was anything going on. We knew, I think he had recently had neck surgery, and it sounded like he was on the mend for recovery, because some people I remember an article that he was on his deathbed essentially, and then they said, nope, that's not true. He's doing fine. He's recovering. I just think that's one of those old school things. You never want anybody to know anything is going on with you. So you say that you're okay, but you're really not okay. And then, within a little bit of time, I want to say maybe within a couple of weeks of that, he had passed away. So clearly there was some truth to that. There was something going on with him. And as far as we know, it wasn't related to what Ric Flair is saying, but Ric Flair says that Hulk Hogan passed away due to street rugs and that he was using them, and that's what ended up causing him to pass away. But it looks like he's making a little retraction on that statement here. So we're going to get into this article from TMZ. It says, Ric Flair, I should have never said street rugs, deleted Hulk Hogan. Ric Flair is expressing his regret over speaking on Hulk Hogan's passing, saying, quote, he should have never mentioned it, end quote, after the wrestling icon's wife disputed the information he shared on a podcast. Nature Boy went on X to address TMZ's sports story on the matter, in which Hulk's widow Sky told us Flair's claim street rugs deleted Hogan was simply untrue. Quote, okay, Sky, end quote. Flair said Monday night, quote, I got bad information according to you. I should have never mentioned it, end quote. Flair went on to explain he did not mean to throw dirt on Hogan's name with what he said. After all, they were buddies for decades. Quote, I've known Hogan since 1979. Let's move on past this and concentrate on his legacy. Period. End of story. Let's preserve his legacy rather than dwell on any negative energy. I repeat, Hulkamania forever, end quote. Flair's comments on Double Coverage podcast made rounds last week when he said Hogan's doctor stopped prescribing him pain medications to deal with his wrestling injuries, so he resorted to getting help off the street, a decision that ultimately led to his passing at 71 years old. Let me know what you think of that in the comments. I didn't believe it when I had heard that. I never got that vibe from Hulk Hogan. And even if he was doing anything like that, it was probably way back in the day in the 70s when everybody was doing that. Not that it made it okay, but it was more common then. Older in life, I just could not see that. He never gave off that vibe. So I don't think that's the case. But like anytime people pass away, you're just looking for an explanation on what happened, and he says this is what he was told. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but there was nothing on his death certificate that indicated that, so I think it was just a rumor of a rumor that he decided to bring to the public, and maybe should have spoken to the family first before saying that. But we still love Ric Flair. We're going to give him grace, and I appreciate that he decided to clear that up, because I'm sure the family doesn't want that type of information being out there about him. And I'm sure Hulk, if he was alive, would not want that being out there either. Right, now let's get to Funky Dineva. So Funky Dineva is a pretty popular YouTuber on here, and he is out in Georgia, out in Atlanta. And so a lot of times celebrities or people that go into that world kind of connect with each other whenever they're in the same vicinity. And T and Tamar had, when this had to have been a couple months ago at this point, had gone out to Ruth Chris, and they said it was or at least Tamar said that she was going there to celebrate Funky's birthday party. For Funky's birthday, excuse me. Funky says they were just going out to eat, and it happened to have been his birthday, but it was not specifically going out for his birthday, and that he paid for his own food, because he has addressed this on his YouTube channel. And the reason why he felt the need to address this is because after they had all went out that weekend, Tamar gets on social media saying that she had almost passed away. She woke up in a pool of blood, don't know how she got there, face down, and that she had, I want to say, like 4 or some of her upper teeth, they came out. She don't know what happened. So when you say that, it sounds like, well, did somebody push you down? Did you trip? Did you fall? How'd you fall flat on your face like this and then hit hard enough that you knock out your grown permanent teeth? Like that's quite an impact there, unless you already had some dental problems. So it didn't take much to take them out. I don't know her dental health, but assuming that all is well in that area and that she doesn't have weak teeth and that everything is okay, that's got to be a pretty hard hit to knock out adult, grown, fully rooted teeth. So she never really gave an explanation. She says she don't really know what happened. She just woke up that way. So that led people to kind of trying to understand, like, how did this happen? Did somebody attack Tamar? What happened to her? Was she maybe some substance or something was given to her, a drink spiked or something like that? It kicked off a whole rumor mill. And Funky Dineva felt the need to address it because he had been with Tamar that weekend and wanted to make it clear he did not know what happened to her. Now, the way he had expressed that he didn't know what had happened to her, the wording kind of left a bad taste in people's mouth because he had said, I don't know what happened to that lady, and that lady had this, and that lady had that. And he just kind of sounded very dismissive about her, like she wasn't really a person, like he was just kind of talking about a thing. And I don't think he meant it that way because that is how he talks. If you watch his YouTube channel, you watch his videos, he always says that lady. That's how he describes anything. So I didn't take it as a slight or him making any kind of commentary on Tamar at all, because that's literally how he talks. But if you aren't familiar with his channel and maybe you were catching it in passing, it may have come off a little dismissive and blasé for a situation that he maybe should have had a little bit more, came off a little bit more sympathetic than it did. But now he is explaining a little bit more about what was going on that night that I think adds some context that makes sense why he responded the way he did. But not having that information, it makes it a little bit harder to digest what he said initially in the way that he meant it. But before we get to that, so after this occurs here, and he goes on his YouTube channel, say, I don't know what happened to her. We went out to eat. And then, we went back to her place. I got back in my car and I left. Or I think it was her place or the next place they were going if it wasn't Tamar's place. And then he said, he got in his car. He left from there and he don't know what occurred after that because he was at home. And I can understand that. We're not always going to be after you go out. When you're meeting up with people, you may not always go back to the next little spot where everybody's hanging out just to sit there for hours. As we get old, we want to go home, we want to go sleep, we want to be in our own comfortable space. If there's not really too much going on, I don't have a need to sit around there. I could do that at home, comfortable in my pajamas. So he said he went on home and that was that. And the next thing he knows, he's seeing the same thing like the rest of us. And he said he had got a text from her talking about, she got her teeth were knocked out, and he's trying to find out, what had happened. How did this happen? And she wants to get the phone number for Dr. Heavenly so she can get her teeth addressed. So she never really said too much more about that. And then once Funky Dineva had put out there that he was with her that weekend and kind of what had occurred based on how he had responded to that, people started making assumptions about whether or not he may have had something to do with it, whether or not he was a good friend, whether or not he just left her in a situation where she was vulnerable, or was she already maybe inebriated or had overdid substances allegedly, and that's why she was like that. We didn't know, but everybody's making all these assumptions and saying negative things about him, and he got upset, understandably so, and was addressing that on his channel, and had just pretty much made a blanket statement to Tamar, if you say anything else about me, I'm just gonna spill it all out. So don't even insinuate, don't post no subliminals, don't say nothing about me, keep my name out your mouth, was pretty much what he was saying to Tamar. And then Tamar has to come on out and do an apology, or she did an acknowledgement on her social media that Funky didn't have, anything to do with it. And he just wanted it to be cleared up because he didn't like his name being associated with some negative happening to her, especially when he didn't do anything to her, which is completely understandable. And so she did, but it took a little while, and it was kind of like a roundabout way that she had addressed it, but she did it. And I thought all was well. And a dentist comes out. I don't know where Tamar found this person or how she even convinced her to come out and make the statement on her behalf. But a dentist claims that she had mouth trauma, that she did come to her, and that she had something that had gone on with her teeth, and that she needed, several surgeries and different things to be done, kind of trying to validate that Tamar was injured. Because, then there started to be questions of, did you really get hurt? And so this dentist was supposed to be validating that. And according to this dentist, from what Tamar was able to find out from another doctor, because a dentist could not diagnose this at all, was that she may have experienced sleepwalking. Like she may have tripped while she was sleepwalking, and that's why she doesn't remember what happened. It sounded outrageous when she said it. I personally wouldn't have said it, but I'm thinking Tamar must have paid her some good money, or just assume because she is a doctor. I don't even know if she was a legitimate doctor or not, that people were just going to take her word for it and leave it there. But to me, it made it sound even more questionable of whether or not it was legit, because that to me is a stretch to have a doctor come out to try to validate, but it's not even a doctor, it's a dentist, to try to validate that you were maybe sleepwalking and that's why this occurred. For the mouth trauma part, okay, I would have been fine with the dentist just speaking on that, but once they went above that, that's when I questioned the legitimacy period of what was being said. And then you still seeing Tamar kind of out and about. Now, I can tell you, if I had the mouth trauma that she claims she had, waking up in a pool of blood, and you lose your 4 teeth, I don't know that you see me out at the club that fast. Like, I don't know how well dentists are doing surgery, but I would be thinking your mouth might be swollen, or there's got to be some kind of healing period or something. But she did kind of just pop back out real fast, and I was watching her do a live where she's just talking like this, where she's putting on her makeup and stuff, just kind of covering up the top part of her teeth with her mouth, but she was still talking like normal and doing her makeup and everything. And it didn't give to me that you had just had a situation like you wanted us to believe from what you were writing on social media. But I'm not there, I don't know, but that's just what it was giving to me. And now with Funky Dineva's version coming out, it kind of makes sense. So Funky Dineva says that Mendices, who I think was on Love and Hip Hop, I'm not personally familiar, but if you know the show, you may be familiar with this name. But Mendices, who I believe is married to Yandy, I always hear those two names together, that he was there and that the cameras did not capture him being there because he was in the way, way, way back. But he was there, in that in the car, in the Uber, Tamar and Mendices was back there kissing. Now Mendices is supposed to be married. And if that is the case, and if Tamar was doing that, I'm pretty surprised because, she had a pretty big situation with JR, especially when he was dealing with Tommy, although that was when they were on a break. Him and Tamar were on a break. But still, you know what that feeling is like if somebody is messing with someone who you are in a relationship with, whether that's loosely or not. So I'm kind of surprised if she did do that, because I know you know what that feels like on the other side, Tamar. But that's what he says, and I don't think that he has any reason to not be telling the truth on that. This was what he said on his channel, and he says the reason he didn't stay at, I want to say it's her house that they have went back to after Ruth Chris. Reason he did not stay is because her and Mendices had went upstairs, so he didn't feel there was a need for him to be there, which makes complete sense, because why would you sit there for that if you're assuming, okay, these two obviously want to be by themselves. What am I going to sit, in the living room for, have this awkward moment? So he kind of pieced out, and that's why he wasn't there. And that leaves the question of, did Mendices know what happened? Why did you kind of casually leave out about that person being there as well, and kind of let that heat fall onto Funky Dineva? So we'll see what comes from there. As far as I know, Tamar hasn't responded back to that or said anything to it, and I don't expect her to, because I think she did a podcast where she just said, I know, where that incident was brought up, I just know I went out to celebrate a friend's birthday, and then, after this, I wake up in a pool of blood, and that's that. Kind of still being vague about it. And so Funky Dineva took to his channel, and that's when he decided to expose that. So it looks like, allegedly Tamar was messing with Mendices, and this may have been a cover up for that situation, or maybe something occurred because of that situation. We don't know yet, but we're going to be following this story. So make sure you are subscribed to Aries Rose TV so you can get your updates on that. And now we're going to be talking about Todd Tucker and Kandi Burruss from Real Housewives of Atlanta. So they have been married for about 11 years, and the couple dated a few years before that. Kandi is a well-known singer from Escape. They were a big group, a big R&B group in the 90s, and then she kind of reinvented herself and to the Real Housewives of Atlanta franchise, and she was a fan favorite and had been on the show, I want to say, for over 10 years. She was one of the longest housewives. She had been on the show for some of the longest runs as a housewife, and she's no longer on that show, but during her time of being on that show is where she met her now estranged husband, Todd, and Phaedra is the one who had initially connected them together. So since this divorce has been filed, we're learning a little bit more, and it looked like Todd wasn't initially going to kind of go up to Kandi or kind of try to initiate anything, but Phaedra kind of talked him into it, and then he did that. And then after they were just dealing with each other for a little bit, having a friends with benefits type of situation, if you know what I mean, she said, well, this is cool, but I don't really want to be doing this forever. Where are we going with this? What are we doing with this? And he was saying, I'm like, man, I just got here. Like, I'm still trying to, you know, basically still wanted to be single. So he wasn't ready to kind of be tied down or committed, but that's kind of what she wanted. So he acquiesced as far as we know. And so they, developed into a relationship. And then from there, it went into marriage. And I watched the marriage special that they had on Bravo. And, it looked like they were happy. It looked like they were in love. You could tell, just like with any kind of relationship, they had their things. One of the things I noticed was the sticking point was the prenuptial agreement when they were going to get married. To me, it gave off that Todd did not want to sign that prenuptial agreement, but he did it because he wanted to marry Kandi. I'm sure he didn't want to kind of embarrass her on the wedding day where an actual wedding doesn't take place. Although if he didn't sign it, I'm sure Kandi would not have had a problem because she was not going to walk down that aisle if he didn't sign it. But I'm sure he also didn't, on the flip side, want to leave a whole wedding situation, people coming in, making plans to be there, um, and just have that all taken away because he didn't want to sign the document. So he did, but I felt like he signed it under duress. Then they went on ahead and got married. And they've done Broadway shows. They've attempted the restaurant business. That hasn't been as successful, but I also think we're just not in a great economy right now. So it's just going to be a lot harder, especially if you're not very knowledgeable about how to do those things. Food can be in the restaurant business, can be very difficult and tricky. It's hard. And not everybody who gets into it is going to be successful, but also not having the Real Housewives as a platform to keep promoting those things, where you kind of having that as a marketing tool to get it out to the masses, I'm sure also impacts the amount of people that are coming to the restaurant, because that's a really good vehicle to share any of your projects and things that you are doing. And then word of mouth about the quality and the service, quality of food and the service and stuff wasn't all of that great. I think Keith Lee had did a review on Old Lady Gang, and he does reviews on different restaurants, and I went down to Atlanta, and it was a big deal, but it wasn't, it didn't hit the highest marks. And that impacts people wanting to come. So if you're going to spend money, you want a really good experience at a restaurant, right? You don't want to go just because a celebrity's name is on it per se. It should also be something that they're offering there that you want, especially when the prices are pretty high. So that the restaurant business didn't do well, but they did do different Broadway shows. I think they did a show, Othello, where Denzel Washington was even in there. And that one got some really good reviews. And it looked like they were, a powerhouse couple, definitely in the media world, because Todd was in media as well as Kandi's in media. She's a successful songwriter as well, so she's still very much into her music world. And sadly, their marriage just didn't make it. And I'm not entirely surprised about that, to be honest with you, because it looked like, because Kandi is a workaholic. She's very much into work. She's going to make sure she's good. She's putting work first. Sometimes to me, it always gave off that she was putting work first in the show. But I also understand that mentality, because you want to make sure that you are good and you do what you got to do. And it's hard sometimes to say no when you just feel like, I don't know if this will ever come up again. I just want to make sure that I take every opportunity I can to set us up to be successful when you know you don't have anything else to fall back on but you. So I understand that mentality because I have that a lot of the times too, and I have to work on keeping that in check to prioritize more than just work, because life will go on when you're not here, but the people that want to spend it with you, once that time is gone, it's gone. You know, you don't get to have your kids 5 forever. So you want to make sure you're also being engaged in that too. It's a delicate balance, but I could see that was a sticking point for them. And when they added kids into the mix, they're 2 beautiful children. I wondered, how that was going to work, because she's going to work. She's not going to stop working. And she was torn with Escape at one point. So I was very interested to know how their relationship was going. And I think this divorce just kind of speaks to it. It looks like they were starting to go apart. We're not spending a lot of time together and your goals aren't in alignment always. It's going to be a lot more challenging to keep that relationship solid. And that's what looks like it occurred here. Now, we don't know for sure where it broke down or what either party would say was the breakdown, but we do know that they are heading towards divorce. And it looks like Todd is contesting that divorce. So he wants to have primary physical custody of the children, and then they have joint legal custody. And Kandi is responding back. Oh, he also is contesting the prenuptial agreement as well. And Kandi is responding back that she wants to have primary physical custody of the kids, and then he could have visitations and they have joint, I want to say, legal custody, but that she will still have the kids even if she may be out of town or on the road, because they have family. And they also have a nanny that was agreed upon by both of them, by both parents, that's been working with the kids since they were born. So this nanny has been around. It's not something new. He was cool with it when they were married. So don't try to use that against me now, is essentially what she's trying to say. And she also wants to keep the divorce sealed. She doesn't want that information to get out, and she doesn't want Todd to be able to go out and talk about it, unless you're talking to somebody for the sake of the case. Like, you have to talk to an accountant to figure out money, you have to talk to a lawyer, but outside of that, she don't want him talking to the public, basically putting their information out there. And I can respect that. You don't want people to know how much money you have, all your personal business. That can be a lot, because once people know, she may have people trying to come for her or trying to get money from her. She just doesn't want to deal with all of that or having her personal business out there. I can completely respect that. But it just looks like Todd is not going to roll over and take whatever you serve to him, Kandi. It looks like he's getting a backbone, and he probably learned from you a little tricks of the trade here. And he's like, nah, pump the brakes. I don't feel like this prenuptial agreement was fair. He feels like it was signed under duress. I feel that same way. I'm in agreement. I don't know legally if that has any standing, but that's the vibe I got. But he did sign it, and he did say he was good, and this was caught on video too. They had recorded him saying, there's just 2 changes I want you to make to the prenuptial agreement, that I'm all good signing it. This is what he said to Kandi. And so I guess those changes were made because he signed it. So I don't know if he really has a leg to stand on, but I can tell you we will be following this legal case. So get your updates here on Todd and Kandi's divorce. We will be doing a review on this new Selena documentary that came out on Netflix. I absolutely love her music, and I loved the Selena movie with Jennifer Lopez. Like, that kicked off my interest in wanting to learn Spanish and speaking it. And I, know a good chunk of Spanish. I'm not fluent in it, but I do know a good chunk of it. Can read it, write it. And a lot of that was because of me being inspired from seeing that movie. And I never even knew who she was until after the movie was made on her, because she did Spanish speaking music, and that wasn't music that I primarily listened to. But after that Jennifer Lopez movie, she got my attention. I said, who is this girl? And I got into her music at that point. And so she very much got me interested into a culture that I knew a little bit about, because you definitely have that around you, but it made me more interested to learn a lot deeper because of how interesting she made it and how much I felt like I could relate to her family and their dynamics. So I definitely want to talk about that. It was a great documentary. And then we got some movie reviews. Zootopia 2, fabulous movie. Predator Badlands, I got to do a review on that. Wicked 2. So lots of good stuff coming up on the channel. If you aren't already subscribed, we'd love to have you as a member of the Aries crew. We have fun over here. Make sure you like the video as you come in. It goes a long way and it helps out the channel. We'll see you on Thursday. I won't be going live tomorrow, but I will be going live on Thursday. Have a great night. Share this live out. Really appreciate you helping our channel to grow. We're trying to hit 2,000 subscribers, so help us reach that goal. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you later.